It was about the time that Strauss wrote Bourgeois Gentilhomme that informed musicians began to be heard muttering that he'd written himself out, that like some hack he was just churning out compositions which sought an easy success by copying the formulas that he'd already proven successful. It's odd, of course, that this charge began to be leveled at him about the time when the cult of modernity first struck the musical world, when composers like Schoenberg and Stravinsky were first shocking the public. Until then, Strauss had developed an idiom which was quite in the running, indeed pretty avant-garde in manner, but more or less coincidental with the days in which Schoenberg was dissolving key-centered harmonic structures into total dissonance, and Stravinsky was concocting layers of superimposed dissonance upon triadic forms. Strauss began to cultivate those gentle classic qualities that we observe in Bourgeois Gentilhomme. And for the rest of his life, his music rarely attempted to echo the heated passions of his youthful work, but sought instead a cooler, more integrated, more thoughtful expression. It remained, of course, solidly key-centered. His sense of tonal adjustment underwent a change, though, in that so adroit had he become at manipulating his harmonic events that he no longer became entangled in his modulations, his chromatic language. He no longer self-consciously directed the architectural procedure of a composition into an arbitrary classic form. He was able to bypass the obvious, to cultivate the most subliminal relations between the parts of a work. Harmonic events and structural focus were now uniquely combined in music of the greatest subtlety. Compare, for instance, this example from his Metamorphosen. And compare that music, which is written in 1945, with the jaunty outgoingness of the Violin Sonata, which is written in 1885. And you get some idea of the intensity of his development. Because Strauss did develop. He developed in the only way that really counts for an artist, by a lifelong concentration on an ideal of sound. He stands outside of what we think of as being the progressive way, that's true. But I'm not at all sure that the example of Richard Strauss won't yet serve an extremely important historical purpose. It'll take time for this to happen. We're still too close to him. But eventually, without minimizing all of the other great figures of our time, I suspect that we'll be able to look back and appreciate the vital things that have happened in our age more clearly because of one superb iconoclast who didn't belong.